My name is Rebecca Martin, and I am now the co-founder and executive director of New York River Watch, and we thank the organizers of the Mohawk Symposium, Watershed Symposium, for hosting us today. I'm part of a great team. Jen Epstein, who is our co-founder and science director, Captain John Lipscomb, who's with us today, who's a technical advisor for advocacy, Maureen Cunningham, strategy and management advisor, and Good Work Institute is our fiscal sponsor. So our team knew that many industrial waste streams, including landfill leachate, are routinely sent to municipal sewage treatment plants. And what we found, however, is that the practice is largely unknown to the public, and its scale had not yet been clearly summarized. So our goal is to share this information so that communities, and especially those relying on these rivers and lakes for drinking water, can better understand how leachate is handled and to take steps to protect their water sources. So we all know this, but when we throw things away, they don't disappear. They end up somewhere, and that somewhere is often landfills. Leachate, or garbage water, is the liquid created when rain or snow melt moves through a landfill. And as it passes through waste, it picks up a wide range of contaminants, including heavy metals, pesticides, PFAS, and other synthetic chemicals. The EPA chemical database includes 86,000 chemicals that's used in U.S. manufacturing and commerce currently and in the past. Many of these substances and their potential impacts are not well understood, but we know they can pose risks to human health and the environment. People often say that industrial waste is gone from our rivers, but the leachate loophole shows that it's not gone, it's just hidden. And our team coined the phrase leachate loophole to describe how toxic landfill leachate, which is not allowed to be released directly from landfills into neighboring waters, is instead transported or piped to municipal sewage treatment plants that are not designed or equipped to filter out the toxic chemicals that end up being discharged into waters. Multiple environmental regulations touch upon leachate at various points in its life cycle, but together fail to protect rivers and lakes from leachate pollution. So in short, we've built a system that requires landfills to contain their toxic leachate, only to turn around and allow the same pollution to be piped or trucked off-site and dumped into municipal sewage treatment plants that were never designed to remove these dangerous chemicals. The result is predictable. Contaminants flow through treatment systems and into rivers and lakes, and then require downstream communities that rely on them for drinking water to bear the costs, the burden, and the worry of making it safe to drink. So at last year's symposium, we presented the first phase of our work, which covered the portions of the Hudson and Mohawk Rivers watershed that are used as drinking water supplies. And in response to this project and this initial report, many people outside of the area, which is in green here, wanted to know about their own local watershed. Others thought that this was uniquely a problem only for the Hudson and Mohawk rivers and the watershed, the drinking area watershed. But we know that this is a statewide problem. We know it's a national, international problem. And so we decided to expand our work living in New York State, across New York State. So you can see our area in yellow mustard is now what we're looking at. So to do this effectively, we were once a coalition We created a new platform in order to talk about the statewide data that's coming out soon in the spring, called New York River Watch. It's an organization that takes a system-wide and holistic approach to protecting New York's rivers and waters. Formerly the Hudson and Mohawk Rivers Leachate Collaborative, this new organization is building on that foundation. And the Leachate Loophole campaign is a large work. We'll be doing this probably for the rest of our lives, and it remains our primary focus. The harmful practice threatens the health of millions of New Yorkers and the wildlife that depend on these essential water sources. New York River Watch is leading the movement to advocate for comprehensive, sustainable, and statewide solutions. So what many of you are interested in here today is the Mohawk Watershed, and in this area you can see the mustard color. We expanded our data gathering west of Oneida County. So looking across New York State, about 541 million gallons of landfill leachate were discharged into rivers, streams, and lakes each year from 2019 to 2023. About 86% of the leachate came from active landfills, and about 14%, rounding up, from inactive landfills. By asking municipal sewage treatment plants for information about their leachate through FOIL requests, we obtained information for about a total of 66 landfills. 3 of these were located outside of New York State. And even though most of the leachate came from active landfills, about 60% of the landfills over there were inactive landfills. This includes sites that have been identified as environmental remediation areas, meaning that there are hazardous wastes in the fill. The leachate ended up in 24 different streams, rivers, and lakes. The top 7 of them are shown here, and together these 7 water bodies took in 70% of the total leachate. The Mohawk River ranked 4th in terms of the amount of leachate discharged at about 48 million gallons per year. And this slide compares what we knew last year in green based on the Hudson Mohawk study area and what we know now. In the expanded area, we identified 2 additional sewage treatment plants in the Mohawk watershed that accept leachate. However, these 2 plants accepted some of the highest leachate volume in the state. So they added a considerable volume to the watershed total. Whereas before we had identified 9 landfills that sent leachate to sewage treatment plants in the Mohawk Basin, we have now identified 13. There is 1 additional municipal sewage treatment plant that we believe accepts leachate, that we're waiting on a FOIL response, and that is Herkimer County. So the leachate that flows into Mohawk Basin and the municipal sewage treatment plants mostly came from landfills within the watershed, but we've zoomed out so you can see the 2 that are outside. In 2023, the city of Amsterdam, their municipal sewage treatment plant began accepting leachate from the Bourne landfill in Massachusetts, where most of the material that it accepts is incinerator ash, and from Seneca Meadows in Seneca Falls, New York. So Amsterdam first started accepting leachate from Seneca Meadows in December of 2023. So our mapping only includes that 1 month of data in December, or 400,000 gallons that December of 2023. However, in 2024, that volume increased to about 3 million gallons. So this is a closer view to show these localized landfills in more detail. And the active landfills shown here include some of the largest leachate generators in the state. And over the time period that we looked at, Seneca Meadows had the greatest volume. Over the time period, Ava landfill, which is up there at the top there, had the 5th highest, and Colony had the 10th. Seneca Meadows is owned and managed by Waste Connections, and Colony Landfill is also managed by Waste Connections. Together, these two landfills produced about 25% of the leachate, most of it from Colony. And that flowed into municipal sewage treatment plants in the Mohawk Watershed from 2019 to 2023. In 2025, Waste Connections reported a $9.5 billion revenue. This company certainly can afford to treat its leachate before it's dumped into municipal sewage treatment plants, and they already treat leachate sent to the town of Seneca Falls, portion of it. So if they can do it there, municipalities that accept this leachate can also require that they do the same for their own municipality. So this isn't an isolated issue. There are large volumes of leachate entering the Mohawk River. All along its course, it's a watershed-wide problem with contamination distributed throughout the entire system, rather than it being confined to any one location. And as a result, pollutants can travel downstream, affecting drinking water sources, wildlife, and communities far beyond their original point of entry. So it doesn't stay in one place, it's getting everywhere. Leachate pollution is bad for aquatic life, but we chose to connect this practice of drinking water in order to show how the leachate loophole directly impacts people's health and the environment and communities. So across New York State, about 1/3, 31% of the leachate was disposed of at municipal sewage treatment plants that discharge into officially designated drinking water sources. In other words, Class A water bodies. And I'll just say this underestimates actually the true impact of leachate on drinking water because rivers are interconnected. So even upstream areas that are not designated as Class A waters are receiving leachate, and it can be carried into Class A waters for sure. And the Mohawk River and connected groundwaters, this data point hasn't changed since last year. 266,000 people drink from the Mohawk River supply. 161,000 people use it as its sole drinking water source. 105,000 people use them as a blended source. And then the burden of removing contaminants to make drinking water safe falls on the municipalities that operate these systems, many of which are likely receiving chemicals from leachate that they're neither monitoring or required to test for. So what's next? So our team is now anticipating this for a long time, that the DEC is about to publish its new proposed rule for on-site treatment and disposal of leachate at landfills in 2026, 3 years after it was first announced in 2023, and following its recent acknowledgement in the governor's 2026 State of the State address. We are asking the DEC for a 90-day public comment period in order to allow for meaningful public input on the proposed rule. And we're finishing up our new report, Landfill Leachate Pollution in New York State, which will be released in early spring and shared publicly through our website, through webinars, and other means for outreach to help more people become aware and engaged of these new regulations and what is really a historic opportunity for people living in our state. So join our mailing list at New York River Watch for updates and to hear from us when the new report is published. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We've run out of time for questions, but you can go find Rebecca during the lunch break.